But yeah, so an NK Jemisin was there, and then Tanana Reeve Dew, and I think it was like, literally like sitting right in front of her. But prior to that panel, I certainly had never thought about poetry in terms of Afrofuturism, so I was having a moment there. And then I also hadn't put horror into my understanding of Afrofuturism. But it was something, I forget exactly how she put it, but Tanana Reeve Dew was talking about how the history of the Black experience in this country can be thought of as a horror story. And something just clicked. And that made a lot of sense to me. And the idea and the themes from that kind of, you know, was working its way in my mind for a good bit. And then I came up with this poem. All right. Why Black women write horror stories? A not quite fictional survey of Black female horror writers in the US. And it starts off with an epigraph from Tanana Reeve Dew from that panel. I'm thinking a lot about how I use Afrofuturism in terms of processing trauma as a horror writer. The piece of it that most attracts me is how to take evil and create a sort of funhouse mirror image of it that is not the thing itself, but a visual or written expression of a thing that is frightening or frightful, and creating survivors. Black women write horror stories because US history should be told as a scary story, because slavery was a living nightmare, because generations of Black people survived mass kidnapping, physical and psychological torture, rape and murder, and systematic dehumanization, because look at where we find ourselves today. Black women write horror stories because Black people still fear for their lives, because white people are still afraid of their own shadows, because most folks refuse to actually look in the mirror, because we want good and evil to be black and white. Black women write horror stories because we have to exorcise these demons, because it isn't just all in our heads, because the monsters we have to face are real, because this country fed upon the flesh and blood of our ancestors to bring itself to life. Black women write horror stories because Black women have seen some scary shit, because it isn't safe to be Black or a woman, because the past isn't dead even if it's been buried, because the future could be even scarier. Black women write horror stories because these are the lessons that Black kids need to learn, because what you don't know can get you killed, because happy endings don't always tell the hard truth, because there's no sense in lying about it. Black women write horror stories because we are the hopes of our mothers, because we are the mothers of hope, because we know how to find our way in the dark, because we've done this before. Black women write horror stories because it's time to right the wrongs that have been done to us, because this is how we help our people make it out alive, because we have always been our own greatest heroes, because telling our stories just might change history.